Hi guys, how you doing? It's Wednesday morning. We've just obviously finished the first session of the year, 2025. So hope you're feeling quite good after Monday or Tuesday, and you're not feeling too sore. The class was really good. I thought it went well. New guys did really well as well. So yeah, well done everyone. A good start. I've been having a read through like last a wee bit yesterday and then this morning of some of you guys, mainly new guys I think, who checked in on Kahunas and filled out a wee questionnaire on the training app, which was quite good. So I've been reading through them all. I've not responded to anyone in particular. Anyone's specific questionnaire, but I was just trying to find like common themes and look for what everyone's sort of aims or goals are or whatever. And it's always interesting because obviously there's a lot of folk doing the classes from different ages and stages. So there's like quite a lot of people in their 20s and 30s who are at a completely different stage from other groups that are maybe women going through the menopause and stuff like that. And then there's like a middle ground of between ages, like in their 40s, that are maybe going through family life and full time work and all the stresses that come with that. So that's one of the main challenges I find is always try to make sure that everyone, no matter where they are in their life, is getting a lot out of the training. Now, the irony, well, not the irony, that's probably the wrong word. What I've come to realise though is that it's actually fairly straightforward for me as a coach to write programmes that do benefit a wide spectrum of people, and because that's the beauty of strength training and progressive overload and the principles that it follows. When it comes though to goals that are determined outside of training. So, for example, when I'm reading people's goals and aims there in the questionnaires, no matter the age and stage that you're at, the general seems to be the same. People wanting to lose weight, wanting to tone up. These are the common phrases you've written down. Want to lose fat, want to feel fitter, want to feel more energetic. Want to get a bit more feel a bit more athletic for sport. So there's a couple of people who play sports as hobbies. Football, tennis was cited, and there was a couple more. Someone was wanting to lose weight and eventually wants to attempt to do a high rocks next year. So, but the general themes. My point is the general themes are pretty much the same. Gain muscle, get stronger, feel more athletic, lose weight, or feel better about how you look physically, aesthetically. Few folk attached before pictures of themselves and stuff like that they want to say they want to improve on. So over no matter anyone's age and stage, that is always seems to be the main reasons that people get into training and sign up to something like this. And what I've come to realise over the years is that I can control. I can almost guarantee that people will get stronger. All they need, because all they need to do is show up consistently and follow the instructions of the program and pay attention to it, and it will work. It just works. It's science. It works. But what I cannot control, and the reason I'm telling you this now is because I think it's important to sort of be aware of it. What I can't control is who makes progress from a weight loss point of view, from a fat loss point of view. And that is because that comes down purely to you as an individual and the habits that you have outside of the training. And then so that's one of the main things I want to talk about in this first video of the year. I was talking to someone, in fact, probably everyone I talk to who makes good progress has the same sort of like journey to get there. The latest person was just this morning at the Wednesday morning strength and conditioning circuit class, who you can really see a difference in. And she was making a joke about it, saying, I just did what you've been telling me to do for the last 4 years or 3 years or however long that she'd been coming. And that is the thing. There is people that can come for a year, 2, 3, 4 years, and they do get things out the training, obviously, that they enjoy. Like they get stronger, they feel better mentally, they feel much better, but they don't necessarily right away achieve the goal that they set out to achieve in the first place, which is, like I've just said, for most folk, that's weight loss or fat loss or that kind of thing. And that is because it's something separate, and it comes down to the mindset. And no matter how much you know you've got to do, or no matter how much you understand the roadmap of what you need to do to get there, high protein diet, managing your food intake, step count, etc., etc., none of that matters because, well, it does matter, but none of that means much unless the person's mindset is in the right place. So these goals you've cited in terms of weight loss and stuff, it's important that you understand that does come down to you. Yeah, having a bit of accountability and having a strength and conditioning program or a program or anything like that to follow helps, but for long-term sustainable progress, it comes down to the individual. And the reason it's so difficult in a way is because from my own experience of like mindset, which has not always been good, right? Now, people that have known me for a long time know that, right? And from someone who knows or has gone through a sort of journey, a mental journey, I guess, of like being somewhere that they shouldn't be in their head and wanting to change it, but finding it so difficult to change it. What I can tell you is that no matter how much you want to change, like no matter how much you think you know how to do something, it doesn't always taking the step that gets you to do it are two different things. And it's almost like the way I like to try and speak about it, and not in general terms. And now it's not as sort of deep as this, but when it comes to addictions, for example, you'll often hear like the first step. If anyone's heard of the 12-step program, for example, I shared a thing on my Facebook or Instagram the other day from Tony Hopkins, the famous actor, who's 48 years sober or something, and I think he's fascinating the stuff he comes out with, and he's very wise. But the first step, for anyone who's not familiar with the 12-step program, is a rehabilitation program for alcoholics, but it works really well for other addictions. But also, the first step is like admitting or acknowledging you've got a problem. That's the first step, and then recognizing that really the only person that can take that first step is you. So if you're relying on someone else to do it for you, it won't work. And I guess that's probably something that I've realised like over the years, even with running this for so long, that you can lay out a roadmap of what people need to do, but really it's actually only once people realise, oh, wait a minute, this isn't going to work unless I actually change and do it properly and really want to. So there might be a reason for that. You might hit a rock bottom moment in some way, shape or form that makes you think, you know what, this is it, I've had enough. And see, when that happens, you kind of know. I feel like you kind of know when you're there. You don't need to figure out, oh, I wonder if I've hit rock bottom yet, or I wondered. And I'm not saying it's going to be as obvious as that and as severe as that, because at the end of the day, we're just talking about people that want to lose a bit of weight. We're not talking about something dead serious in terms of like, a serious problem that you need to face up to. But it's the same sort of mindset in a way of like recognizing that it has to come from the individual. So I don't know if it was worth me pointing that out there, but I just thought I wanted to address it quite quickly, because you'll find along the way that you might actually get things from the sessions that you didn't initially come to them for. And then the thing that you really want initially won't actually be achieved. So until there's a sort of change in or a shift in mindset in terms of, oh, hang on a minute, I can give someone all the money in the world, I can give them all the questions in the world, I can ask for all the help in terms of like what I need to do so, but until I actually am feeling ready to fully accept responsibility that it's up to me to do it, then I will never actually achieve it. And that is definitely the case when it comes to fat loss and weight loss in particular. So it's all because I reckon every person watching this or reading my emails or whatever I come to class knows probably roughly what they're meant to do, but doing it's a different thing. Obviously, coming to an exercise class or taking part in a training program can help have a synergistic effect to get you there. But yeah, that's the main thing, the main message I wanted to put out from the start. In terms of like what you're obviously trying to do, like you're trying to manage your food intake if you're trying to lose weight, and the first and foremost, one of the best ways you can do that is by ensuring you've got you start to increase your protein intake daily. So we're talking like aim for between 2, possibly all the way up to 3, but let's say 2 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight should be a sort of daily target for everyone who is trying to achieve fat loss. And I put up a sort of a progress video or picture a few weeks ago of one of the girls who's done amazingly well, Lucianne, and what she had sort of described how one of the first things she did was increase her protein intake significantly, and what that did was automatically she then reduced the amount of food that she consumed, like snacks and stuff, because she was not as hungry. So if you're someone that struggles a lot with hunger, that's one of the main reasons to increase your protein intake, because by default, you'll eat less of the stuff that you maybe feel you struggle with, like crisps and snacks, etc. So the higher protein intake is really pretty much a non-negotiable. So 2 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight. So if you weigh, let's say you weigh about 80 kilograms, that's about 160 grams per day, for talking sake. So to put that in context, a chicken breast is about 40 grams. 3 or 4 eggs would have about 20 to 26 grams. A can of tuna is probably got about 28 to 30 grams. So you'll find that there's probably more protein in certain foods than you realise, but ultimately you want to try and get a staple across the board of breakfast, lunch and dinner that contains a really good protein source. For that reason, it will reduce your likelihood to then eat more food at times that you know you struggle with. A protein supplement on top of that is also a really beneficial thing. It's not necessary, but it can be useful, especially if you feel you're struggling with cravings or struggling to get enough protein in. So that's something to consider. You're just looking for a whey protein supplement from either Spartan Protein or myprotein.com, something like that. But that's the sort of first thing to look for, which should automatically help you reduce your overall intake. There's a few folk that have been asking for calorie targets. They want to track their calories in MyFitnessPal. That's absolutely fine if you want to do that. It can definitely help. I think there's a lot of folk that would benefit from it, especially if you're just kind of guessing what you're consuming, you don't actually know. It can also be a bit of an eye opener as well if you think you're eating, inverted commas, healthy, but it doesn't necessarily mean you're eating appropriately for your body weight or your goals just because you're eating something healthy. There was a funny Kevin Bridges sketch, I don't know if you saw it, a few years ago. He said he got into a personal trainer and he was meant to keep a food diary, he forgot to keep it. He wrote down 5 bananas or something. I can't remember the exact detail, but he wrote like 5 bananas for breakfast, and the personal trainer saying, "Oh, that's too much fruit, man. You can't have that amount of fruit." And then he was like, "All right, okay." And then the next day, he forgot to fill it out, so he thought, "Hey, what's a healthy food? Avocado, brilliant." He wrote down like 4 avocados or something. But and the point was that, yeah, even though something like it can be healthy, like avocado, it's still got lots of calories and lots of fat in it, which can end up taking over your overall, increase your overall intake. So it's about being mindful of all the food you're taking in. It's not just a case of good food and bad food, or healthy food and unhealthy food. There's also the amounts to consider, because you can overeat on something even if it's healthy, inverted commas, so you have to bear that in mind. And that's why perhaps tracking calories for a short period of time can be a useful tool. It can see it almost like as stabilizers, and it can also make you aware or accountable to the fact that maybe you aren't consuming as much protein as you need to be doing on a daily basis. So protein intake is really useful for fat loss for that reason. It's also really useful because it will help almost protect your existing muscle that you have. So when you're losing weight, you want to make sure it's fat loss and not muscle loss. But if you're going on a low calorie diet, like 1100, 1200 calories, and you're not consuming a lot of protein, then a lot of that weight loss is going to be fat loss, which is an undesirable outcome. It's not going to lead to strength gains. It's certainly not going to lead to improved body composition as such. It may be in the short term, but not in the long term. So that's another reason why the protein intake is pretty relevant. Okay, so it will decrease your appetite, which, if you think about it, is what these drugs that people are being prescribed that are struggling with obesity have been given. It's ultimately to reduce appetite. Protein does that as well. High protein does that as well. Maybe not quite as acutely, or definitely doesn't do it as acutely, obviously, but it does do it. So it's almost like a more natural, not a more natural, I don't want to use that word, but it's a more simple daily way to do it. Okay, so it's just some ideas to get you started, but reach out to me if you're wanting to go over some more specifics. I think there was one other thing I was wanting to cover, and that was it. And that third thing, when it comes to fat loss, that's another reason why strength training is so important. So it's so that you need to send signals to your brain, essentially, to say, like, okay, I'm losing weight here, but I need this muscle. And the only way to make sure that happens is by, like, using it. Literally use it or you lose it, especially if you're losing weight quite aggressively. So the strength training is a really key tool, not just to improve, like, longevity, not just to improve athleticism, not just to improve your, like, aesthetic goals. So for example, if you're wanting to grow your glutes, then you need to be doing hip thrusts, deadlifts, lunges. You need to be doing these things, but it helps retain the high protein diet and the strength training alongside it will help retain these muscles as you're trying to lose body fat only. Okay, so that's another purpose of strength training. Try and remember that strength training is not just about performing exercises, it's about performing movements and then overload them as the weeks go on. So I'll go into a bit more detail of that as we progress. Okay, so good start. Tomorrow's session, we're going to do a wee bit of bench press. We're going to get that stuck in. A few folk, again, I was reading the questionnaires, a few folk are saying they've got terrible upper body strength. Someone referred to their bingo wings, which I know is a term that is used to describe the triceps or the wobbly bits under your arm. So triceps are the muscles at the back of the arm that a lot of women especially refer to as bingo wings. So exercises like bench press literally are targeting those muscles, the tricep, chest as well obviously, but the triceps get a good workout from there. Any sort of pressing movement will target that. So you're going to be doing a bit of bench press tomorrow, which will also have a knock-on effect on your press-ups going down the line. So a lot of folks struggle initially with press-ups, but bench press is a similar movement pattern. So the idea is that while you're sort of like building your strength in the eccentric part of a press up, I said to you guys yesterday and Monday, just focus on the loading phase because the press up is the harder phase. And in the meantime, you can be doing things like bench press, which will focus on the pressing phase, the upward phase, and then you'll eventually bridge the gap. Because press ups, like chin ups, like dips, these are body weight strength to weight ratio exercise. That's why they're so difficult for a lot of people, because you can't, like, you're basically pushing your body weight. You can't alter it. You can't just take off some of your weight. In the ideal world, you could, but you can't. Whereas you can do that with bench press or squats or deadlifts or any other resistance exercise. If you can't press the bar up, then you just reduce the weight on the bar. If it's too easy, you just add weight to it. So that's the beauty of these exercises. They're almost like gateway exercises to body weight exercises like press ups and dips and chin ups. And it's another thing to remember as well, of course, that chin ups, someone or a couple of people would put in, they want to be able to do a chin up. I think it's also important to recognise the challenge that a chin up actually presents. So I often find it ironic when I put up videos of chin ups on Instagram, for example. Like you'll get some likes, you get maybe 20, 25, 30 likes, whatever it might be. But if you put up a video or a picture of a progress picture, you'll get hundreds of likes. And often people don't actually recognise or appreciate that being able to do chin ups is a much more difficult, attainable and benchmark of true physical progress that one has made over a long period of time as well. So it's much more impressive, it's also much more attainable, but it looks a lot less impressive until you go to try it, and then you're like, oh my god, this is so hard. So what we do when you see all the females, because historically people don't associate like a lot of good strength with females, like, which is wrong obviously, but when it comes to chin ups and stuff like that, especially I'm talking about, like, we've got a lot of females now doing chin ups, but that's not particularly normal outside of the sessions here, but they won't come easily, so you need to see that as a sort of longer term goal, a chin up, especially if you're also someone who's trying to lose weight, because it's a strength to weight ratio exercise. So no matter how much like effort you put into trying to get a chin up, if you're still carrying quite a lot of body fat, you've got to recognise that you're making it much harder for yourself, and that's also another reason why, if you're losing body fat that you feel is excessive, then it will help you in the body weight exercises. But at the same time, that's why non-body weight exercises are so accessible and so suitable for everyone, because anyone can do them no matter your starting point. So there's a lot to take in. I'm just reckoning if you can just sort of be aware of your own goals, how attainable and how achievable they are relative to you, and then it's about trying to create habits and build a plan based on that. But if you're unsure of anything, just reach out to me, and I'm going to go over things in more detail. But certainly if anyone's sort of struggling with food intake or not sure how many calories they're consuming or wanting to aim for it, and they're wanting to go down that road, then just ask, and it can easily be given to you. Okay. Anyway, I've kind of gone on a wee bit longer than I meant to. I just wanted to sort of get an introductory video out, but it's ended up going on for 19 minutes. Anyway, any questions about anything, feel free to get in touch.